I've been wanting to do a recording on awareness, and I'm going to put in a couple of general concepts and explain them as I go along. Okay, the first is if somebody were to throw a rock across the water, they would be walking along a beach or whatever, and they see a rock on the ground, and they pick it up. And all of a sudden, they're looking at the rock and they decide to throw it. And it starts bouncing across the lake or the ocean water. And it goes to the other side of where they're throwing it from, whether it's a little beach thing or a lake. When did the action end and when did it start? Well, most people would say, well, it started when the rock hit the water. Or some people would say, it ended when the rock hit the beach or hit the other side of the lake or whatever. But it actually started when the person decided to pick up the rock. And every change starts with the time that somebody makes a decision. For an example, if somebody decides to buy a car at the end of May, and they think about it, and in the middle of June they go to see a car dealer and they order a car, and it takes 6 weeks for it to come in, and it's, let's say, August or whatever when they pick up the car. They would say, most people, when did you start to buy the car? Oh, I got it in August. Well, no, you started when you first decided you were going to buy a car. That was the beginning of change. The second concept is that's the beginning of changes, always with the decision. The second concept is, when does someone start to run out of a woods? And somebody would say, well, how large is the woods? And I would say it really doesn't make any difference. After you run halfway into the woods, you're running out of the woods. And I say the same runs for time, a month. And when I do time predictions, what I do is, let's say it's June, a 30-day month. The first 15 days, you're running into the month. And as soon as you cross the 15th day, you're running out of the month. So early June is before the 15th, and late June is after the 15th. And after the 15th on the 30-day month, you're now running out of the month. And that's the nature of time. So in one case, a change starts with a decision, not necessarily doing something. And another concept is, if someone decides not to do something is an action. For instance, if they say, well, I'm going to buy a new car, and they're really hopped up on buying a new car, and they decide not to. Deciding not to do something is actually an action. So somebody would say, well, how could that be an action? You decided not to do something. But a decision not to do something is an action. I just wanted to give out some of these changes. And as to time, the way to figure time, the way when you run it halfway into the woods, you're running out of it. When you run halfway into a month, then you're starting to run out of the month, just like the woods. The woods was originally an IQ question, and they asked, well, when do you start running out of a woods? And somebody said, well, how big is the woods? Doesn't make any difference. After you go halfway, you're running out of the woods. So I figured I would share a couple of these metaphysical concepts. And some people may find it interesting, and some people may find it confusing. I hope not confusing. If they do, they should listen to the tape a few times.